Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Troy Lambert of Plot Geek Academy, and today I'm going to kind of give you a bonus update of Unreadable, the book that CJ and I are working on. So if you haven't been watching those videos, you can go back and watch those updates. But today we're going to talk about the Solitaire code, which is used in our book. Now, without giving a lot away about the book itself and exactly how the code is used in it, I'm just going to give you some background, and then I'm going to show you how we do something which is called keying the deck, or making sure that both people that are using this code have exactly the same deck or can figure out the exact same order of cards. Okay, so Bruce Schneider is an American cryptographer and security expert. He created the Solitaire cryptographic algorithm. The Solitaire cipher is a low-tech cryptographic algorithm that uses a deck of playing cards to encrypt and decrypt messages. It's really simple to use, although it does take some time. So, if you're just an ordinary person, you could send coded messages back and forth with your friends relatively easily, and just by using a plain old deck of cards, any kind of deck of cards. Okay, so, and what this relies on is just that shuffling a deck of cards creates an inherent randomness. And so that randomness is hard to crack unless you actually know what the key stream is that the deck created. Okay, so it's kind of, there's a lot of technical terms that go with it, but basically you're creating a key stream of numbers 1 through 26, only you're using a deck of 52 cards to do so, and you're using some addition and some subtraction to get to basically encrypt and then decrypt any messages that you receive. Okay, there's about 6 steps that go through that, and we're not going to cover every single one of those because there's other resources available for that, and you can figure those things out on your own. Maybe we'll do another video later with those, okay? But keying the deck is the most important part of the whole thing. And this is where the entire security of the system is hinged on, because it's only as secure as the key. The easiest way to break the code is to figure out what key the communicants are using, the people they're communicating are using. If you don't have a good key, none of the rest of this matters. So there are some suggestions for ways to exchange a key. Now, the one that we use in our book is the simplest, and that just means that both parties have identically shuffled decks. So this is a random key. So basically, or it should be a random key. Now, you could arrange the deck in a certain order if you wanted, but it should be a random key. And basically, you're just going to shuffle the decks. Now, most people are really bad at shuffling, so you're going to shuffle the decks about 6 times, okay? And then, once you have the deck in that order, then you're going to create another deck that's in exactly that same order, paying special attention to where the jokers are and making sure that it's in that order as well. Also, it's often recommended that both people keep a spare deck or some kind of a record, even if that record is in some kind of a code that tells them what order the deck is in. So really quick, let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay, the first thing you're going to see in front of you here is a deck in which we've taken out both the jokers. The only reason I've taken them out is because you have to be able to tell which joker is which, the A and then the B joker. Okay, so in this case, because we're going to use a bridge ordering of the deck, which is a very common way to do it, we're going to use the black joker is going to be Joker A, and the red Joker is going to be Joker B. Now, most often you use the bridge ordering when you number the cards in the deck. So that gives you what each card represents or stands for. Another way to make the code more secure is to just use a different ordering than the bridge ordering. Okay, so you can use it, instead of using clubs first, you can use spades first or something like that. So the bridge order starts with clubs. That's 1 through 13. Then it goes with diamonds, which is 14 through 26. And then hearts is 27 through 39. And then spades is 42 until 52, or actually 54, because the jokers are 53 and 54, respectively. Now, normally you don't use the jokers as letters in the code because they're beyond 52. Okay, so that's what each of the letters in the deck stand for. Now, usually the numbering of those goes something like 1 through 26 is A through C, and then 27 through 52 is A through Z again. Okay, so it can be either one depending upon the order of the deck. Okay, that's the default order of the deck. Now, you're going to mix up those numbers because you're going to shuffle the deck. That's what we call keying the deck. Now, we're going to put the jokers back into the deck when we do that, because the jokers are then involved in how you generate letters from that key. Again, we're not going to cover that in detail in this video, but we'll cover it in another one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the jokers back in the deck, and we're going to shuffle it a few times. Now, you'll notice that shuffling this deck, this is a relatively new deck of cards, and it's kind of slick, so it's hard to shuffle them exactly the way that I might with a more worn-in deck of cards. But what you can see is by the end of it, we have a randomly ordered deck of cards. I shuffled them about 6 times. Okay, so when we look at the deck of cards, we're going to get a result that looks something like this. We can see that we're going to have a lot more randomness to the cards, which is good. Now, one of the next things that we're going to do, that we're going to want to do, is order a deck in exactly the same way. Again, having 2 decks in exactly the same order is really important for the system to work. So actually, what I would do at this point is order 2 different decks exactly the same way as this one. Or alternatively, I might create another code, a separate code, and a spreadsheet of some sort that would reveal to the person I'm sending this to exactly what order the deck was in. Now, there are other ways you can do this too. Instead of sending them an identical deck of cards, you could use bridge hands, like the bridge puzzles that you would often see in older newspapers. Now, those bridge hands can be used as a system to tell the person what order the deck is in. So they can start with a brand new, fresh deck of cards, and they can follow those puzzles and replicate that. Now, the only danger in that is if someone else gets a hold of that bridge puzzle, well, then they could potentially figure out the order of the deck as well if they're familiar with the process. Now, there are obviously some safeguards against that, okay? So you can do that. The other way that you can do this, the other way you can pass it to someone, is use a passphrase to order the deck. So you're going to use the Solitaire algorithm to create an initial deck ordering by basically sending over a passphrase that you're going to use the algorithm to solve. And as you use the algorithm out of any deck of cards, then you're going to start with the deck in, just a normal fixed order. And then you're going to use the term, like, for example, secret key as a passcode. When you go through the process of decrypting the code, you're going to use that word and use that to order the deck in the order that the original deck was in. Sounds a little bit complicated, but it's actually relatively easy. So this may be a low-tech way of doing things, but once we've done this and we've got a couple of decks in order, then we can send messages back and forth between 2 people. Now, it's recommended most of the time you only use one shuffle and one deck for one message, and then you rearrange the deck for the next message so that no 2 messages are alike, and therefore the likelihood that somebody else could crack the code and solve it is much lower. Now, this is meant to be done by hand, manually, but there are ways to do it on a computer now, and some of those can be actually found on Snyder's website, and he has some ways that you can use a computer to create this code as well. Okay, so you can visit Bruce Schneider's Solitaire site and the Solitaire or Solitaire Cipher Wikipedia page, and either one of those will show you some ways to create this cipher using a computer or doing it by hand. It's actually a lot of fun to do it by hand. If you can go through the process yourself to create your own code, then you really truly understand it. So when you use a computer, you understand what the process looks like. And that's it for this special update for Unreadable. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you understand better how the Solitaire code works, and I hope you enjoy it when you get to that part of the book just because you have a little more background. Thanks everyone for joining me. We'll see you next time.